Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Benjamin Chong Alfares with economic and financial reports from around the world. Coming up today, will Apple's latest innovation succeed to give it the long-awaited boost? And Egypt builds hopes on new Suez project. First, the headlines. The UN General Assembly agreed to negotiate and adopt a framework for sovereign debt restructuring processes to improve the global financial system. A resolution drafted by Bolivia on behalf of the Group of 77 developing nations and China was adopted with 124 in favor and 11 against. The United States voted against the measure, saying it would create uncertainty in financial markets. Though the resolution by the 193-member Assembly is non-binding, it carries a symbolic international political weight. And for Argentina, which defaulted in July after a New York court blocked its payment, it offers at least some encouragement.
Simply put, one day I think it will be understood that the world needs to be more just and equal, with more doves and fewer vultures in all areas. Not just in economy or the military, but in all areas. We are fed up with the hawks, falcons, and vultures exploiting the world.
Former presidents, United Nations leaders, and a billionaire entrepreneur gathered in New York City to suggest sweeping changes to global drug policy. Known as the Global Commission on Drug Policy, the high-powered panel called for an end to the criminalization and incarceration of drug users. Instead, they suggested prevention and intervention strategies, access to opiate-based pain medications, and government regulation of drug markets. Louise Arbour, the former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, said the model we've embraced for the past 50 years is ineffective, inefficient, and costly. The commissioners want the upcoming 2016 UN General Assembly special session on drugs to use its recommendations to shape new global drug policies.
It is imperative to take the drug trade away from the hands of organized crime. Without the profits obtained in the drug markets, organized crime would not have the capacity to hurt societies and institutions through violence, intimidation, and corruption, as happens now.
Saudi Arabian authorities have seized illegal drugs worth $500 million in the past 6 months and held more than 1,000 people. The security operation seized 21 million amphetamine tablets, of which 13.5 million were seized as they were on their way through Sudan. Drug smuggling can be punished by death in the conservative Islamic kingdom. All narcotics and alcohol are illegal in Saudi Arabia, which has a young population and applies strict Islamic Sharia law.
Security forces have managed to capture the suspects involved in the smuggling and promotion, transfer and reception of these narcotic substances. There were 1,197 of them, including 456 Saudis and 741 of 35 different nationalities.
U.S. sanctions against Cuba costed $3.9 billion in foreign trade last year, raising the overall cost of the 55-year blockade to $116.8 billion. When factoring in the depreciation of the dollar against the international price of gold, the overall cost of economic damage rises to $1.11 trillion, Cuba said. Cuba would have gained an additional $205.8 million just from sales of cigars and rum without the embargo, it said in the report. The figures were published in a report that Cuba prepares for the United Nations each year, urging the end to the comprehensive U.S. economic embargo. The United Nations has passed a resolution for 22 straight years with overwhelming support.
We
must remember that the blockade violates the rights of the Cuban people. And we are of the opinion that there is not, and there hasn't been in this world, a violation of the rights of an entire people that is so terrifying and vile than the blockade from the United States government against Cuba for 55 years.
Apple unveiled a watch, 2 larger iPhones, and a mobile payment service in a bid to revive its reputation as a wellspring of innovation. And as the smartwatch is the first new product to be developed and introduced since CEO Tim Cook took over from Steve Jobs in 2011, its success is crucial for both the tech giant and its CEO.
Apple's having a big week that could turn into a big year. This week, the company unveiled 2 iPhone 6 models, the new Apple Watch, and Apple Pay. The computer company has continued to take its position front and center on the upscale market of connected objects. With market capitalization at $593 billion, the company has been defying competition, leaving Samsung, LG, and HTC trying to catch up with similar products. Some worried that Apple, without Steve Jobs, would not be able to keep up on the innovative push. But these items have changed that perception. After a few years of wandering, the California firm seems back at it, if not revolutionizing, innovating at least.
We've been working incredibly hard for a long time on an entirely new product. And we believe this product will redefine what people expect from its category.
The new products complement one another and may help bring a few new customers to the Apple operating system. But it's a tough market. The iPhone's presence grew 13% over recent months, but the market grew nearly 40%. Meanwhile, on Wall Street, shares jumped up and down. During the presentation of the new gadgets, shares in the company went from $100 to $98, then $103, and finally $97. It's a reminder that while exciting, there was nothing truly groundbreaking at the presentation.
This is the first time Tim Cook is going to show us a new product category developed under him. And if it's a dud, then all those Apple naysayers are going to be right. But if it's a success, they're totally wrong, and Apple is going to get a nice little cushion for a few years.
The next few weeks may reveal whether Tim Cook can step out of the shadow of his illustrious predecessor.
Jonathan Silver, Managing Director of investment management firm Clarity Capital, joins us now on Skype from New York. Mr. Silver.
Thank you for having me, Benjamin.
Thanks for joining us. How did markets react to the iPhone 6?
Apple stock initially went up by over 3% before falling back to end the day virtually unchanged or down slightly. The initial price run-up reflected Apple's meeting the great expectations for the new iPhone. Apple had been playing up these expectations, implying the new iPhone would revolutionize the industry, and actually holding the introductory news conference for this iPhone in the same hall in California where Steve Jobs back in 1984 unveiled the original Mac computer. So expectations of a significant announcement were certainly in place. And the iPhone 6 was seen to have largely met those expectations. There was an improved processor, up to 25% quicker than the prior ones, well-publicized bigger screens, 4.7 and 5.5 inches, better camera, and also a new mobile payment system, Apple Pay, that could bring a new and recurring revenue stream to Apple.
Okay, so why did Apple stock go back down if the iPhone was seen as such a great product?
That's a good question. Apple stock declined, I believe, in sympathy with the overall market, which sold off pretty aggressively in the last few hours of trading, largely as a result of expectations of future interest rate increases. So really nothing to do with Apple stock per se. And parenthetically, shares of Apple have typically traded lower on the days that the new iPhones have been announced. The past 6 announcements has seen the stock trade lower by an average of just over 1% on each of those days. So ending the day essentially unchanged is not too bad of a result.
And how do you imagine, considering all this hype, the iPhone 6 will shape Apple's price in the future?
Like every stock, Benjamin, Apple's price level comes down to its earnings. And early signs are that the iPhone 6 is going to lead to a reasonable boost in these earnings. Historically, iPhone sales account for over half, around 53% of Apple's total revenue. So the iPhone success is crucial to the Apple's bottom line.
Right.
And the new iPhone 6 is really unlikely to disappoint in terms of sales. It comes in the face of lots of pent-up demand. Many consumers have been waiting quite a few months to get their hands on the iPhone. I know my kids have. And for investors, this launch date of September 19th, next week, will provide crucial information as to consumer interest. Namely, will people literally line up to buy the new iPhone in higher numbers than prior years? Now, last year in the launch of the Apple 5S and 5C, I think about 9 million units were sold. Investors are going to be looking for more than that this year, probably closer to 10 million units.
Okay. I mean, some analysts have said that the bigger size is sort of reminiscent of the Samsung. What new features of the iPhone 6 could spike interest? I mean, what is it that people really would bring people to the market?
Sure. I think the new Apple Pay system, the new mobile transaction payment system, is intriguing. It has convenient features like one-touch checkout. It has deals with Visa, MasterCard, American Express, a host of large banks and stores. And investors are going to be looking at a couple of things there. Can Apple Pay create and maintain a new recurring revenue stream through their new mobile payment system? And equally or more important, what segment of the significant mobile electronic transaction market can Apple truly capture?
Okay, for a final comment from you, what are, and if there are any, downside risks for Apple and for the markets?
There certainly are downside scenarios. For one, as you know, the smartphone market is extremely competitive. The new iPhone is the late entry into the market, and it's certainly no sure thing that Apple can reclaim users that have been using larger screen smartphones like the Samsung. Secondly, there's now a big buzz and excitement about the iPhone. That can certainly be cut short, and people can go and choose to buy cheaper, older versions of the iPhone and save some money. Finally, as has occurred sometime in the past, there could be a backlog for the new iPhone that can cause significant delays in iPhone delivery. So that would certainly create a negative drag on the stock. But ultimately, Benjamin, Apple stock is going to boil down to expectations. And for fiscal year 2015, median estimates of earnings per share range between $6.90 and $7 a share. Apple needs to at least match, but more probably beat that in order for its market valuation to increase. And beating those lofty expectations is certainly not going to be easy.
Fantastic. Well, Jonathan Silber, thank you very much for joining us on the show from Clarity Capital from New York City. Thanks for giving us a sense of where our expectations will lead us with Apple.
Thank you for having me, Benjamin.
Thank you. The ambitious new Suez Canal construction project comes at a critical time in Egypt as the struggling country tries to contain mass frustration. But while the project offers hope for a better future, its most promising feature lies in its focus on local funding.
It's a mammoth project. In early August, Egyptian leader Abdel Fattah al-Sisi officially launched the construction of the new Suez Canal. It involves an expansion of 76,000 square kilometers and renovations. All told, the project aims to raise $8.5 billion. In all likelihood, this will allow Egypt to double traffic from 49 to 97 vessels daily. The original idea brought up during the rule of Mohamed Morsi was to look to Qatar for funding, but al-Sisi aims to fund it locally without foreign investment, from Egyptians buying certificates to finance the project.
It is beneficial for the people, and it is beneficial for the country. It is beneficial for the people because the interest is 12%, which is considered high, and the return is every 3 months for those who paid over 1,000 Egyptian pounds.
Egyptians have been flocking to banks in recent days to acquire Suez Canal certificates. The investment is largely seen as a safe bet and as a sort of patriotic seal of approval through local economic support.
I feel that I am contributing in the development of our country. I want to feel that my grandparents built the canal with their blood and sweat. I am contributing with something very simple, money. I'm contributing for my children and my grandchildren. I feel that I'm digging over there. I'm an old man, but I feel like I'm digging there.
The country aims to revive its lagging economy. Growth of 2.3% over 2013-2014 is too low for Egypt as it works to meet the infrastructural, economic, and social challenges of a growing population.
And now for a quick discussion of other reports we found for you in Media Watch. Daniel Roth, thanks for joining us.
How's it going?
Good. So what do you have for us today?
So first of all, we've talked about it this week. I've been on a few shows talking about this. Today is Internet Slowdown Day, protesting what could be the FCC's decision to create an internet fast lane for pay. Just wanted to mention that today is a big day for that. You can go to battleforthenet.com or fightforthefuture.org to learn more about that, because that's a huge, huge deal online.
Indeed.
But we can move on now into another story. NPR actually carried this piece looking at a Harvard Business School study that found through a survey that most business leaders think, rightly so, that corporations in the next 3 years are going to do very well, while workers are going to do very poorly. Now, this view from the survey is reflected by reality. In the last 5 years, the stock market has doubled in value, while median household income remains at pre-recession levels.
Right.
So it's an interesting study. Turns out that Harvard Business School alum are fairly smart and know what's happening around them is really what this survey showed. And the truth is that it's not good. There's this fork in the road in American economy between what's happening in the stock market and what's happening in the salary pocket.
Okay, well, thanks very much for clarifying that, Daniel Roth. That's the end of this edition on The Economy Show. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Benjamin Chandler-Faris. Send us your comments, your feedback, and join us again tomorrow.